Most people live their entire lives never realizing their greatest enemy lives in their own mind. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, didn't just rule an empire. He ruled himself, and in just one sentence, he gave us the key to peace. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. But we've forgotten how to think. We've been taught to react. Our minds are constantly bombarded with input from the world around us, and if we don't learn to process that information in a healthy way, it will turn into a destructive force in our lives. You see, your thoughts determine your actions. Your thoughts determine your habits. Your thoughts determine your character. If you want to change your life, you have to change the way you think. You have to become the kind of person who can sit in their own mind and be at peace. Because if you can do that, you can handle anything that life throws at you. No one sees it, no one hears it, but you feel it. Every single day, there is a war, and it's not out there, in the world. It's not between countries or companies. It's not between you and them. It's not even between you and the things you think you can't control. It's between you and your own mind. This is the battlefield, and most people never even realize they're standing in the middle of it. Because the enemy isn't loud. It doesn't shout. It whispers, over and over, you're not good enough. They're laughing at you. You'll never make it. Thoughts, endless, spinning, unchecked, and you start to believe them. You start to live them. You start to build your life around invisible fears, imaginary failures, and predicted disasters that never arrive. Marcus Aurelius, philosopher, warrior, lived surrounded by real enemies, plagues, rebellions, betrayals. And yet, he said something most people still don't understand. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. He didn't say it depends on your wealth, or your job title, or even the people around you. He pointed to the only thing no one can take from you, your mind. And here's the truth. Most suffering isn't caused by the world, it's caused by the way we think about the world. A delay becomes failure, a look becomes rejection. A silence becomes proof you're not enough. The Stoics had a word for this. Fantasia, the images and impressions our mind creates, unfiltered, untested. The pain isn't in the moment. It's in the story you tell yourself about the moment. You get hurt twice, once by life, and once by your interpretation of it. Your mind spins a web and you become the fly. So here's the first lesson. Your thoughts are not facts. Your emotions are not commands. And your mind, left unchecked, can become your greatest prison, but it can also become your greatest weapon. People say the mind is powerful. They say it can move mountains. But what they don't say, what we don't often realize, is that just as the mind creates fear, it can also create peace. Just as it constructs self-doubt, it can forge unshakable confidence. Marcus knew this. He didn't write philosophy in comfort. He wrote it while leading an empire, while burying children, while facing death. And still, he said, guard your thoughts, question them, shape them, because they shape you. So ask yourself, what kind of thoughts are living in your mind? Are they building you, or are they breaking you? That's the invisible war. And most people lose without ever knowing they were in it. But if you're hearing this now, you're awake enough to choose differently. You don't have to believe everything your mind says. You don't have to live under its noise. You can train it, sharpen it, clear it. You can learn to think on purpose. You can return to stillness. And from that stillness, rise. Not because life got easier, not because the world changed, but because you did. As Marcus wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Everything begins there in the silence. In the center, where thoughts arise, where meaning is born. Your life is shaped not by what happens, but by how you think about what happens. And that is the real battleground. And now, you know where to fight. He ruled the most powerful empire on earth, and yet he woke every morning to battle an enemy no one else could see. Himself, not the rebels at the border, not the generals who plotted, not the plague that stole his children. It was the quiet war inside, the war for his own mind. Marcus Aurelius wasn't born stoic. He became one. Because when you hold everything, you quickly realize what actually matters. And it's not gold, it's not armies. It's not the applause of the Senate or the fear of your enemies. It's this. Control over your own thoughts. Clarity in the middle of chaos. Peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. That's what makes an emperor, because what good is a throne if your mind is a prison? Most people think power means more money, more control, more comfort. But Marcus saw the trap. He wrote, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Not within Rome, not within fortune, not within victory, within yourself. You can be handed the crown of the world and still be a slave to fear, a prisoner of your emotions, a puppet of public opinion. So Marcus practiced a different kind of rule, ruling the empire of his mind. He questioned his own thoughts. He wrote them down, not for glory, not for fame, but for mastery. He reminded himself, daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. That's not a quote, that's a command. It's the core of Stoic discipline. Because what if your thoughts aren't reliable? What if most of what you believe about yourself was installed, not chosen? Fear, shame, doubt, ego, none of them are native to the soul. They're inherited, imprinted, reinforced by the world, and then repeated by you. Marcus broke that cycle. In the quiet hours, he wrote to himself. He sculpted his thoughts like marble, chiseled away the excess, cleared the fog, returned truth. He didn't need more. He needed less noise, less judgment, less illusion, because peace isn't something you find. It's something you return to when you subtract everything that isn't real. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Most people never realize that they spend their lives blaming the world for a war that was always inside. But Marcus Aurelius knew the throne doesn't protect you from your mind. It just exposes whether or not you've mastered it. So here asks the question. If the most powerful man in the world spent his life mastering his own thoughts, why would you do anything less? This is what it means to think like an emperor, to govern yourself first, to hold your mind like a sword, not a cage, to lead your inner world before trying to change the outer one. Because if your mind is calm, no storm can reach you. And if your thoughts are clear, no enemy can deceive you. True power doesn't scream. It sits in silence and knows itself. That's what made Marcus more than a ruler. That's what made him a philosopher king. There's a voice inside your head. You hear it every morning, before you even open your eyes. You're late. You should have done more. They're ahead of you and you never question it. Not because it's right, but because it's familiar. That voice, your inner dialogue, it talks to you more than anyone else ever will. And yet, most people don't even know where it came from. It sounds like you, but is it really you? Or is it a collage of criticism, fear, and comparison, woven together by years of repetition? Here's what Marcus Aurelius understood, and what most people never learn. The voice inside your head is either your greatest ally or your first enemy. The world can tell you you're not enough, but that only becomes real when you repeat it to yourself. That's the difference between pain and suffering. Pain happens, but suffering is a story you tell yourself about the pain. And that story starts with the voice. Every time you fail, the voice decides what it means. It can say, "You're finished," or it can say, "Get up, learn, you're being sharpened." Every time someone leaves, the voice gives it a reason. It can say, "You were never worthy." Or it can say, "That was not love. That was dependency. Now you're free." The same event, the same facts, but a different voice creates a different life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, your inner dialogue becomes your inner reality. So ask yourself, would you speak to a friend the way you speak to yourself? Would you call them a failure? Would you tear them down when they're already hurting? And if not, why allow it in your mind? Here's the truth. Your mind is a forge. Your thoughts are the flames. And you are the blacksmith. What you repeat becomes reinforced. What you believe becomes behavior. And what you tolerate becomes truth. That voice inside your head, it can be rewritten, not overnight, but word by word, day by day. And this is not positive thinking. This is mental warfare. You are either installing thoughts or you're being programmed by default. So if you want clarity, if you want confidence, you must lead your inner dialogue. You must train it like a soldier. You must speak truth to yourself when fear lies. This is what Marcus did. He wrote as if he were two people. The one who feels and the one who knows. The one who panics and the one who responds. He became his own counselor, his own coach, his own commander. Because he knew no one else is responsible for the voice inside you. And no one else can change it but you. So, the question is simple. When you hear your inner voice tomorrow, will it be the voice of doubt or the voice of strength? Will it be a reminder of your past failures or a command to rise again? The battlefield is quiet, but the stakes are everything. Choose your voice, because eventually that voice becomes you. We live in a world drunk on more. More noise, more content, more opinions, more distractions. But Marcus Aurelius, a man with access to everything, chose less, not because he lacked, but because he understood. Clarity only comes when the mind is quiet. He didn't chase quantity. He chased quality of thought, of speech, of attention. If you seek tranquility, he wrote, do less, or rather, do what's essential and do it well. That's not laziness. That's discernment. Because you can live 80 years and never have a single original thought. You can be surrounded by information and never touch real understanding. You can work yourself into the ground and build nothing but noise. Marcus knew. The goal isn't motion. It's meaning. Anyone can be busy, but few are clear. Few are focused. Few are still. Clarity isn't something you stumble into. It's forged. In silence. In solitude. In subtracting what doesn't matter. And that's hard in a world that worships quantity. You're told to post more, buy more, earn more, prove more. But none of that makes you wise. Wisdom begins the moment you stop asking, what else can I add? And start asking, What can I remove? The wise don't scatter their energy, they consolidate it. The wise don't speak constantly, they speak with impact. The wise don't think more thoughts, they think better ones. And better thoughts require space. Marcus didn't write volumes of philosophy. He wrote a small notebook to himself, because he wasn't trying to impress. He was trying to see, to think cleanly, to separate illusion from truth, impulse from reason, emotion from insight. He knew the cost of mental clutter. It drowns judgment. It distorts reality. It pulls you into the crowd, and the power is in standing apart. So he wrote with a sword, not a sponge, cutting through the fog, clarifying, simplifying, not adding more, but stripping away the unnecessary until only the essential remained. That's the Stoic way. Not endless words, but one truth, fully realized. Not 100 half-finished parts, but one road walked with depth. That's how a man rules himself, through quality over quantity. So ask yourself, are your thoughts your own, or are they fragments of 1,000 borrowed voices? Are your actions deliberate or just responses to pressure and noise? Are you living with intention or just reacting to the next notification? Because here's what Marcus Aurelius knew. Discipline isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters with excellence. Your mind is not a container. It's an instrument. And every time you choose less, every time you clear the noise, every time you say no to the shallow, you sharpen that instrument. So when the time comes to act, you don't hesitate. You don't waver, you don't scatter. You move with force, because clarity makes even a whisper feel like a war drum. There's a kind of prison no one talks about. No bars, no chains, no guards, but it locks you in just the same. You feel it every time you overthink, every time your emotions take over, every time you react, knowing it wasn't your best, but doing it anyway. That prison is your own mind. And Marcus Aurelius knew freedom begins in thought, or it never begins at all. See, most people believe their emotions are truth, but emotions aren't facts. They're feedback. They don't tell you what is. They tell you what you believe. And if your beliefs are built on fear, scarcity, shame, then your emotions will always betray you. You'll lash out when you should reflect. You'll collapse when you should rise. You'll retreat when you should move forward. Why? Because your mind is still reacting from old patterns. Patterns inherited from childhood, from trauma, from failure, from repetition. Patterns that say, I'm not enough. I need control. I'll never be safe. But here's what separates the strong from the strong-minded. The strong react. The strong-minded upgrade. Marcus Aurelius didn't ignore emotion. He studied it, but he refused to be ruled by it. He wrote his thoughts down, not to escape them, but to reshape them. He knew, if you don't reframe your thoughts will repeat your past. That's why mental freedom is not a moment, it's a practice. The moment you pause, observe, and interrupt the old script, you take back control. You stop asking, why do I feel this way? And start asking, what belief created this feeling? Then, you challenge it. You upgrade it, you rewire the connection. And slowly, the chains begin to fall. You stop saying, that's just the way I am. And you start saying, that was the way I was trained, and now I choose different. Emotional power doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you choose your response, not out of suppression, but out of clarity. Because when the storm rises and others lose themselves in it, you become the calm in the center. Not numb, not passive, but clear, decisive, free. This is the hidden law Marcus understood. To master emotion, master the thought beneath it. Because fear is often just the echo of a false belief. Anger is often the mask for unmet needs. Jealousy is the mirror of forgotten worth. You don't fight them head on, you go deeper. You upgrade the source code. You ask, what do I believe? And is it still true? You do that daily, relentlessly, courageously. And what begins as a small shift becomes a new direction. And eventually, a new life. So if you want to be unshakable, don't start with behavior. Start with belief. Start with thought. Because when you change how you think, you change how you feel. And when you change how you feel, you change what's possible. That's mental freedom. And that's real power. Wisdom without practice is just decoration. Marcus Aurelius knew that. That's why he didn't write philosophy for applause. He wrote it as a daily discipline. Each line in his meditations was a mirror, not for the world, but for himself. Because he understood, the battle of the mind isn't won in a single moment. It's won in the small habits, repeated daily. He wasn't writing to teach. He was writing to remember who he wanted to be. When power tempted him, when stress overwhelmed him, when the world turned chaotic. And that's where real stoicism lives. Not in lofty theory, but in the practice of reflection. So what does that look like today? It's not complicated, but it is intentional. Here are the modern tools built on ancient fire. 1. Morning alignment. Before the day pulls you in 100 directions, pull yourself into one. Ask, what kind of person do I want to be today? What challenge might test me? How will I choose to respond before it happens? Set your direction, then walk it. 2. Evening reflection. When the noise dies down and the masks come off, you face yourself. Marcus did this nightly. He reviewed his day, without shame, without ego, just honesty. Ask, where did I act from? Strengths. Where did I fall short? What can I do better tomorrow? This is how the mind is sharpened, with consistency, with care. 3. Journaling the gap, not the gap between you and others, but between you and your best self. Write what you fear. Write what you're avoiding. Write what you're pretending not to know. Because when you write it, you expose it, you own it, and eventually, you transcend it. 4. Discipline of discernment throughout the day. Ask yourself, is this under my control? Is this worth my energy? If it is, engage fully. If it's not, release it completely. This is how you conserve your fire, so it burns brighter where it counts. Marcus Aurelius lived under immense pressure, wars, plagues, betrayals, death, power, and yet he remained centered. Because he practiced daily. He didn't wait to feel inspired. He didn't chase motivation. He built his mindset brick by brick. And so can you. The world may not reward reflection, but your soul will. Because every day you journal, every time you ask a deeper question, every moment you choose clarity over chaos, you take the throne within. This is the inner empire, not ruled by fear, but by focus, not powered by control, but by character, not swayed by the world, but anchored in the essential. If you found strength in this message, don't let it end here. If you found strength in this message, don't let it end here. The universe has a funny way of giving us exactly what we ask for. So if you want more, you gotta ask for more. Like this video if it sparked a new way of seeing. Comment below with one daily practice you'll start using today. And subscribe to this channel because we're just getting started. Here's the thing, you don't need more time. You need more direction. And that begins with a better question. So what are you waiting for?